Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite podcast. As always, I'm your host, All Elite Andy, joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Big Match AJ, Phil, and Kira. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. Same old. Trying to get back into school more. Other than that, not much. Enjoyed Dynamite. Okay, it was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it.
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of boring for me.
I have a very negative reaction to this show, but in personal note, I've lost 5 pounds in 11
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, the Full
So,
Gear Challenge is paying off for our boy over there. So
yeah, remember that? Remember the full gear
we're
challenge?
bringing it back.
Yeah.
It's the Full Gear Challenge over here, brother. So good for you. And yeah, I'm with you guys. It was not the most exciting edition of Dynamite. We're not going to sugarcoat it in any way, but it definitely wasn't offensively bad in any way. There just wasn't a whole lot to me that I thought was super duper entertaining, but we'll get through all that in a minute. I thought it was interesting. We're still with the same commentary team, Jim Ross, Taz, Shivani. I thought I saw some reports this week that we might get Excalibur back, but unfortunately not.
Yeah. Not sure when or now even if Excalibur is going to come back. I want to know what's going on with that. I just want to know in some capacity if he's just taking time to let the Twitter stuff cool off because, like, I feel like it's been more than enough time. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? We'll have to... Go ahead, Phil.
Is he on Dark?
No, I feel like the commentary table is really lacking without him. I feel like you don't really realize how big of a cog he is in the puzzle until he's gone, and you have JR getting a little more talkative. Again, he annoyed me tonight. I don't know.
Vintage JR, So
Tony Schiavone is great in the role that he's provided, but there's no lead man right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you have JR doing his old shtick as lead man, he's a little out of date. You can tell in some matches, especially tag matches.
He just has high expectations, and when they're not met, he makes it very vocally well known. So.
Oh yeah, he just shits all over him.
Excalibur?
No, JR.
Oh, JR. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
I like how Excalibur and Taz work well. Like they work well together on commentary, kind of bickering sometimes almost.
Yeah, but usually we only get that on Dark.
I enjoy Taz being on there because he's a heel, but I really do miss Excalibur.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. We opened the show. We got some fans in attendance, so it looked like there was real life fans there at this point. I don't know if that's something they're doing or if these are just family members or something, but they definitely are fleshing out the attendance a little bit. Looks like first match of the night, we have the Young Bucks going over the Dark Order. Prior to the match, the Dark Order attacked the Young Bucks. This match was fine, but it just there was really nothing super crazy about it. I never really had a whole lot of hope that the Dark Order was going to win this one. I'm actually quite surprised in the way that they lost. Just a quick roll-up victory for the Young Bucks here, so it adds a little bit to the Dark Order, I believe. They just didn't lose super clean, I guess. So
yeah, I thought they looked good. I thought this was actually a pretty solid match. It's just, yeah, it was just like you said, obvious who was going to win. So I don't know. I couldn't really bite my teeth into this, but I thought the wrestling in it was very good. I thought everything was really smooth and fluid, like most Young Bucks matches and like most Dark Order matches with Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. But yeah, it was just obvious who was going to win. There was really no chance of really Dark Order winning here. I think, was it for number one contendership?
No, I don't know if they.
I
ever
don't
said
think
that.
it was. Okay. I don't know why I got that in my head. I must have been from
just a
something from last week. That's good then. But yeah, I mean, Dark Order obviously was not going to beat the Young Bucks here, especially leading up to Young Bucks and FTR. And obviously the Young Bucks would make another appearance on this show. So I don't know. It just, how could I care?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It feels like they're doing everything in their power to highlight 3 teams in the tag division at this point, and everybody else is just kind of cannon fodder for these teams. Nobody else really matters right now at this point until we get to All Out. So every match that these 3 teams have against anybody who isn't another one of those 3 teams is just like this match. Not bad, but not engaging or exciting or
Yeah.
giving you any reason to care.
I think that's why Santana and Ortiz and Best Friends was interesting last week, and they did a little bit to talk about it this week, but
And
yeah, the Best Friends weren't really around. But I kind of like that feud because I actually it's interesting because there's not like this FTR element involved or the Young Bucks element, and I'm actually kind of invested because they beat up Sue's car.
yeah. For some reason tonight just came across to me with the Young Bucks, just how just unlikable. They're just unlikable.
They're great heels though, in that note.
That's what I was thinking when they were celebrating after they won, and I was upset that they won. They do a really good job as bad guys. I don't really see them as like a real face top tag team. I just don't feel like they fit that role well enough.
Yeah, it
I
feels
feel like
forced
they
almost
kinda-
in this position.
Yeah, but I feel like
when
if you take them away, who is the top face tag team? Because Kenny and Paige aren't going to be around forever. So then who fills that void?
that's true.
Private Party, Barf.
Maybe the Jurassic Express, but even then they don't have a whole lot going for them. Like you're right
Yes.
in terms of who would fit that position that makes sense. There's not a whole lot of people. So yeah, and that's where they should look to do something about that, especially if the Young Bucks are a team that's going to turn, which I have no idea. And that's where it can be frustrating with AEW, where they kind of don't really lean into the heel and face thing. They almost want to be against it. But then we end up with situations where for many weeks the Young Bucks seem like almost as if they're going to be bad guys, but now they're not. Like it feels very weird. And maybe that's just us as fans, what we're used to seeing, like, oh, this looks like a heel turn is coming. And it never came. So who knows? I mean, just because of what else happened in this show, I don't feel like we're going to get that Young Bucks heel turn, but I could be wrong.
I mean, and a lot happened obviously. Like when they were teasing that heel turn more, FTR was still in WWE. COVID wasn't happening. Hangman Page and Kenny looked like it was going to come to a head, and so obviously it's a lot that's been going on. So you kind of just have to fall back on them as regular old faces, but that doesn't really work. And like you said, it comes off as forced.
Yes. Absolutely, but I mean, I get it. I get why they are presented as the top face team because they are one of the most popular teams in the company. The most popular team in the company. I mean, but it's still just it's strange. Because to a lot of people, we're kind of tired of this. We've seen the Young Bucks be the top team in professional wrestling really for a long time now. We're kind of tired of it.
Yeah.
So just in that circumstance alone, I feel like it makes it a weird situation with them. But nonetheless, it's all right. After this, we see MJF. He's walking backstage, bullying his campaign staff, just setting up for his promo that he's got coming up later on. They run down the card and say that they asked superstars who their favorite tag team was, which then prompts them to show Kenny and Omega answering. Kenny says the Young Bucks. Hangman says he was going to say themselves, so creating a little bit of dissension there. In an interesting way, but in a weird way, too, because, again, Kenny saying the Young Bucks, I don't know.
It's weird.
It seems strange.
It's weird. They beat them. They beat them.
Even though they're friends and stuff, to me, it's very weird. So...
Yeah, again, another character coming off as totally unlikable, kissing the ass of his friends. Hangman looks really good here because it just is so weird and awkward to everybody except for, I guess, Kenny Omega, who is giving his friends a bubble bath. He's smooching on them, calling them the best. I mean, he went on and on about how great they were.
Yeah.
They showed little videos and pictures of them as like a young team.
Like he's obsessed with that.
Again, I mean, this is another scenario where if Kenny's not going to be the bad guy, what is the point of this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Every segment doesn't have to mean something, but
This
feel
one
like
felt
they
like
are
it did, though. You know what I mean? To an extent.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what was strange about it in a way. Is it felt like it was only there because it meant something, not because like Kenny. He may believe that they're the best tag team in the world, but not in this weird way. So I don't know.
And it was interesting that this was the first tag team reaction of the night because they had quite a few. So, I mean, who really cares who Private Party's favorite tag team was? I guess throwing this one on first means something.
Yeah, that's fair because if
You
it would
agree?
have went in after those ones, I would have already tuned out of what this was. At this point, I did pay attention to what they had said. So it was just like it felt like something, but it also felt really weird. So after that, we get MJF. He's finally coming out behind the podium again. He makes his assistant Nina smile. She's showing us the polling numbers for MJF versus Mox. He says that Moxley isn't here tonight, but he is, and he's always going to be here. He takes partial responsibility for Mox's absence tonight because he scared Mox off. He says he won't happily stare at the lights like other pro wrestlers. Oh, he said that Mox is afraid of change and MJF. He says he won't stare at the lights like other pro wrestlers. He wants to make Mox more comfortable enough to show up to his job, so he moves the podium, lays down in the middle of the ring, essentially taunting Moxley to come out. Finally, Moxley does come out. His music hits. MJF sends his lackeys to the stands where Moxley usually comes from, but of course Moxley comes from the stage, lays MJF out, hits him with the paradigm shift. I wanted to say dirty deeds. And then he gives a decent little promo, talks about how they won't even last until All Out. And so it was interesting. I like that we're finally building up to this, but I don't know. Mox's promo just could have done a little more for me, and it's weird. It's weird to keep saying that because the promos aren't bad, but I don't know. What did you guys think of this? I don't want to sound super negative.
No, I think it's just because we expect more from Mox, knowing how good he is on the mic and how long he was in WWE. It's like, man, Mox isn't being like set free on the microphone. He's not saying whatever he wants to say. And when he came back to AEW, you got that feeling like, man, Mox is going to be able to be the same Mox who was crazy and really messed up on the mic and said crazy shit and did crazy shit and cut crazy promos. And he really hasn't been. He's kind of just been like normal, not bad, and pretty good, but nothing fantastic or great or mind-blowing.
Yeah, this promo was a lot different than the one he cut last week. I think maybe it's because he's got to have an emotional connection of some sort to what he's saying. I believe that the stuff he was saying last week about Darby Allin and about how he's his favorite and he really likes him, they're like similar, that he means it, and you can see it come through with his promos. And then tonight he's doing the whole shtick where he is like the good guy facing the bad guy, and he's got to say like, "Oh, don't mess with me." You can kind of tell when it's like, I don't know how I'm.
I get what you mean. You can tell when he's attached to something.
Yeah.
I think he looked tough. Maybe I just am a little biased because I like Moxley, but I like that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I
agree. It wasn't bad.
Badass. I will agree with that 100%. And I just, that's why I don't know, and I don't even know that I disliked this segment. It's just like, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I need MJF's promos to be more sensible, because while his promos are fine, they don't make sense to me in a sense of, I don't think Moxley would care about anything he's saying. I don't think Moxley would really be offended about any of this that was said. And so because of that, him coming out, laying waste to him, totally cool, fine promo afterwards, but then it didn't even give him anything to promo off of because there wasn't a whole lot of personal matter in between all this. They're just kind of fighting over a title belt, which is fine, and it makes a lot of sense. And I like that MJF hasn't had a match in a while because there's really no reason for him to put himself in a position to compete at this point. So there is a lot I like about what they're doing with this, so I don't want to be too negative about this one segment because the segment was actually really fine. I just want a little bit more heat between these two guys, and I don't necessarily know how to obtain that. But
I think like maybe like a mom insult,
something. If they could bring some type of family matters into this, I think that you're onto something. Maybe not as simple as just your mom this, but you're onto something there.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird that Moxley already's got the one-up on MJF this early in the feud. Usually it feels like the bad guy beats up somebody before the good guy gets one up on him. But I'm not really gonna complain about that.
That's fair, but they're on a weird schedule too right now, especially with that the next show being on the 22nd Saturday. They cleared that up for me a whole lot.
Yeah.
That the next show is on the 22nd, and then they'll have maybe 1 or 2 more shows before the pay-per-view. So at that point, I do kind of understand Mox getting the advantage, because on the 22nd you can have MJF and Wardlow just destroy him in some way, shape, or form, and it should be a good way to culminate it. But I do agree with you to an extent. It is kind of surprising Mox got his hands on him so soon, because most times, most feuds within AEW, it takes a little while for that immediate confrontation and for MJF to be laid out so quickly. It's interesting, but it could be building up, honestly, for us to believe MJF is not going to win, and then he wins.
Well, did you see how hurt he was acting? Do you think that he's going to pretend he has some kind of neck injury now?
For sure.
Like he's going to try to get out of it and have
I didn't think about that.
Maybe until the pay-per-view, but I don't know. I that is a good point. I think that it's weird because he hasn't had to compete until this point, so it's weird that he would fake an injury now, because
yeah.
But I could see that being.
Well,
it wouldn't be the first time. Hangnail.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm actually wondering if the reason that he hasn't been in the ring so much is that he had a legitimate injury, because a few months ago they were talking on Twitter or whatever, the dirt sheets, that he was kind of injured. Maybe that's why he's not in the ring so much. I mean, it does make sense storyline-wise why he wouldn't wrestle if he's the number 1 ranked superstar. I mean, who
and then
who
on
really
the show
cares
they
about
just
that?
pretended he had a hangnail to make it look stupid.
I don't really know.
Yeah.
But you're right that he hasn't wrestled in a while. It's just weird comparing the 2 major feuds he's been in to the Cody thing, where the whole gimmick was Cody can't put his hands on him.
Yeah.
And then so early in this feud, he's already getting beaten up.
And maybe that's almost kind of the point.
Maybe it's jarring.
It just shows how much Jon Moxley is better than.
He's just a badass.
Just way cooler than Cody. You never know.
That is true.
But a feud that is getting a little bit more heat to it, Sammy and Matt Hardy. We got a little bit more of an update on that. We got a replay, and then Matt did a bit of an interview. He talked about how he got 13 stitches. He says that he's alive and he will not die. He's seeing red. He continues to see red until he makes Sammy bleed the way that he bled. On August 22nd, he's going to be cleared and ready to kick Sammy's ass. AEW management wanted Matt to go home, but he's not going to wait. But he's going to wait. And then he attacks Mike Posey, thinking it was Sammy Guevara. This was kind of interesting. I like this, honestly. I like that Matt has a little bit of a feud. The chair shot was an unfortunate incident that makes this feud a lot more interesting. It's akin to, I don't know, Phil, if you will remember this, but the Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards feud in TNA. They had a situation where someone got blasted with a steel bat, busted them open, and it just added a lot more heat to that feud. It was an unfortunate incident, but it added a lot more heat to it. And this is a very similar situation to that. And so I'm excited about this. It's interesting. It seems like they'll have a match on the 22nd. That show on Saturday does look to be heavily built. Hopefully they don't end up delayed because of a long NBA game or something, because they were talking about that as well.
Yeah.
I like how I think it looked like a little bit of Damascus came out of him, and that's my favorite character of him, and I don't know, maybe it's because it's the first one I saw, but it almost seems to come naturally to him. Like when he was hurt, he was like doing that weird mouth thing that Damascus does. He's like.
He also gave a Matt fact and said Matt Hardy I don't die or whatever. So I think he was kind of playing into all the characters but doing it subtly.
Yeah, where's Big Money Matt?
Yeah, it's still kind of confusing though, because he is saying he's just going to be Matt Hardy, but leaning into these characters subtly. But I'm curious where this is all going. I feel like it has to have some point. He's not just doing it a little bit for no reason, but I wonder what it is. I hope he's able to flesh it out a little bit, because that kind of seems like what happens to Matt a lot, is he does something but he's not able to fully expound on what it is that he's thinking, so it's hard for us to understand it. We do a wait and see with AEW all the time, but if they don't continue fleshing it out, it's hard for us to really see what happens. So I'm interested to see where it goes, but it's felt very weird, like start and stop for him a lot. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other times it's bad, but I think this time it was good.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think this was solid.
absolutely. And then they followed it up with a pretty solid matchup, Cody versus Scorpio Sky. Phil, I know you didn't love this match, but I thought it was a pretty decent match. I do agree that I'm ready for Cody to hand the title off to someone else. I don't know that necessarily who I want to beat him, but I'm ready for him to not be champion. I would have liked for it to have been someone in these exciting unknown matches. Because I don't want it to be Brody, and that's what we're lined up for after this. But what do you guys think of this match? What do you think of the post-match?
I like the match like you did. I thought they did a really good job in the ring. A lot of psychology went into this match, very methodical, but not in this like bad, slow Cody way. Because I think Scorpio Sky brings a lot of intensity to the match. Um, uh, but like you said, post match we got Brody Lee talking about how he's gonna give Cody back the old crappy TNT title and take the good one, and I was just like, okay, I don't know why you have that anyways, brother.
It's funny.
But I don't know how I feel about it. I guess I don't know if I want Brody to be the guy to beat Cody, but I definitely agree with you that I want somebody to beat Cody. And I like you said, it would have been cool if it was one of those surprises like Eddie Kingston or even Warhorse, even though I wasn't a big Warhorse guy. Just somebody who had notoriety on the indies that they could make into a star that way.
Or even
but
some of the
they didn't do
guys from
that.
the indies that they haven't brought in. And I get that they don't necessarily, like, they have to run a company, so it's hard to have your finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. But, like, Warhorse is great, but he's definitely not the most well-known independent wrestler they could have brought in. Eddie Kingston was a great one to bring in. I actually would have loved to have seen that. But Warhorse, while I do agree I want to see something fresh, the Warhorse situation was just so strange, especially because it doesn't seem like they're really going to follow up on it. So I guess it was good for, like, a brief, random, weird storyline for Cody to have if you paid attention to the Twitter and shit. But, yeah, I don't know. Where they've gone with this TNT belt thus far, I don't love it. Now that we have an official belt, maybe things will get better. But where it's just gone so far, I get what the idea of it was. I appreciate what Cody tried to do or wanted to do, but it just didn't really click off for me. This was supposed to be him, like, work rate champion type of thing, right? So I didn't get that from this. And so it's cool to just be like, all right, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I've got like 8 different things to say about this, so I hope I don't get too off track and start rambling about random shit. I agree with what you're saying. Basically, Andrew, is your vision for the TNT title isn't really panning out. It all started so wrong. Lance Archer should have won this title.
Yeah.
Ever since then, he's doing nothing. He's stripping his manager on television. He's not showing up. If he had won, Cody somehow would have found his way on television some way or another. He wasn't going to take months and months off.
He could have, too.
So why not give it to a guy and give him some exposure? That was done terribly.
Yeah.
The TNT title, for what it's supposed to be, it's not clicking with me at all. He's just beating up on guys who should be competing for this title. He just beats the mid-card guys every single week. Some guy on Twitter told me he's only been champion for 82 days. It feels like he's got 15 title defenses. It feels like he's beaten everybody. Yeah, his group of challengers aren't the greatest, and most of them have come from outside the company, but man, it's just tired. I don't know if it's because it's every week or what it is. Maybe the TNT title needs to be one of those titles that changes hands often for it to be like an exciting part of the program.
I mean, I would say so at this point. I mean, it should like they've added the prestige to it with Cody's decent run or whatever. But what is it gonna do when the next guy holds it for 3 weeks and transitions it to someone else? Like I feel like they've extended this run for him a little too long. And again, I don't want it to be Brody, so that's kind of where I'm almost annoyed by it, because I do want to see him sort of drop it to someone new and fresh. but not Brody. Like I don't know. I would love to see him. Has he officially had that match with Phoenix that they had announced? Do that and give
You'd
Phoenix
love
the
to see
title.
his
Like, give it to someone
some-
interesting who's not getting a whole lot of TV time, who can have fucking amazing matches, and not and isn't a focal point in anything, and could be made into something with this belt. Cody hasn't done anything to help bring value to this belt. And the belt hasn't done anything for him. And it hasn't helped really anyone that he's faced. He's faced Sonny Kiss. He's faced multiple different people that I feel like didn't really get a substantial rub from facing him. They had 11-minute matches. They've all been the same 11-minute matches where he works over some part of their body, wins in not clean fashion because he doesn't want to bury whatever talent he's facing. And then it's just it ends up leading to a string of just not the best matches. He's not Kenny Omega, so you're not out here having 3-4-star matches. They're just average WWE Monday Night Raw matches. Like,
And it was
a
really
little
weird
above
tonight.
average. I don't want to say it because tonight's match I really liked. So
Yeah. And it's really weird tonight. Maybe that's why I'm so angry. Is they present the new belt. All of Cody's posse comes out. He's faced with a challenger that you could legitimately see kind of being the next champion. Because
I
now
wouldn't
that
have
he's
minded
beat
it either.
Scorpio.
That's what I mean.
Me neither.
He
Yeah.
almost fits exactly what I said with Phoenix in terms of someone who had some popularity going for him, can have good matches, would be totally reinvigorated by a title run. Like, I could see Scorp really becoming a character after becoming champion, like someone that we all like actually care about, not just a member of SCU. So it's unfortunate. Like, and I'm not totally upset that Scorpio lost this one. I didn't have my heart set on a Scorpio run, but I do think it could have been beneficial for him. And it would have made so many episodes like this episode. And I get it. You don't want to do a title change for the sake of adding some excitement to a show. But this show would have been we'd have a whole different excitement if the match that closed it out was Scorpio winning his first singles title in AEW. I think that would have been cool. So the fact that we're going to Brody, I now feel like Brody has to win because he's lost so much. So that's what makes me dislike it even more, because I don't want Brody to win, but I feel like he really needs to.
Don't worry, he's not gonna.
But if he does, that's what bums me out even more. Like, because that's gonna be another long, boring run, because he's just gonna win by either having a bunch of disqualification wins against anyone he faces due to the Dark World. Like, I don't see that being an exciting run either. So that's where I'm like, man, that sucks. But it sucks to see him lose. Like, I like Brody as a character. I just don't want to see him be a champion of anything right now. So that's where I'm conflicted.
And it's kind of like Phil said with Lance Archer. Like, if you want this monster title run, why didn't you just give it to Lance Archer?
And it makes sense to run it back.
The thing that makes me most upset is Lance Archer's completely disappeared off our television screens. If Cody had lost that match, he's still going to find a way on our TVs, man. He's EVP. He can do whatever he can do whatever he wants to. He will make a storyline for himself.
Absolutely. And it doesn't hurt too much that Archer hasn't been around, because when he comes back, he can sort of immediately be put back into a decent position. Because
I don't know. After tonight's segment, I don't know how long they can keep him off television and keep him as an interesting character, because tonight's segment was just awful. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But I'm tired of it.
Yeah, it is. But it is weird. You guys bringing up Archer and the fact that we're going to a match with Brody. It's very weird to me. I feel like if Brody is to win, I will be even more annoyed the fact that you even brought that up, because if you want a dominant champion like that, you easily could have ran it back, done Cody versus Archer again, and no one would be upset with that. So,
and in my opinion, Archer would be a better champion than Brody.
I agree.
I wouldn't even be upset. I mean, I would kind of be upset if they did a rematch at this point, 3 months after the fact.
I wouldn't be. I think that it would be okay to add a little longevity.
At that point, why don't you just make the guy the champion in the first match and then have Cody build his way back up? Because that's the story that's more entertaining to tell.
Fair point.
Than Cody be dominant champion for 3 months and I fall asleep during his segments.
It will be interesting to see where they go after the 22nd if Brody doesn't win, because that would then, you would assume they're going to start building towards the pay-per-view match, whoever Cody's going to face at the pay-per-view. So
that's a question I posed on Twitter is who next? If Brody, especially if Brody loses, who's the next? Who? I mean, it seems like they're just throwing random people out there when you got Mark Quinn and Jungle Boy at this
Matt
point.
Cardona.
You just throw.
Yeah.
God.
You're probably right.
Probably am, and I don't like it.
I'd rather see him fight Arn Anderson.
I would not want to see either of those matches, so we'll keep it going. Private Party is then asked who their favorite tag team is. They, of course, say the Hardy Boys. Not a whole lot to gather from this segment, as Phil said earlier. So we then go to Hangman Page and Kenny Omega defending their titles against Jurassic Express. I thought that this was interesting because I didn't know this was a title match last week, and maybe you guys did. I'm notoriously bad for reading headlines and shit, but I thought this was just a regular tag team match. And then when they announced it as a title match, it didn't add anything to it for me. But I especially knew Jurassic Express was going to lose at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say last week we had mentioned the match, and I said I thought Jurassic Express could win. So I don't think I knew it was a title match. But yeah, if I don't know, for it to be 15 minutes and me to know who's gonna win the whole time, kind of.
Yep.
Is my problem.
You're right. I mean, I can't add much to that because you took the words out of my mouth. It was fine. Like the fucking opener, it was fine. The Young Bucks and the Dark Order was fine, but you know who's gonna win, and so it's just you can't get immersed in it. You can't like go at the edge of your seat going, oh man, who's gonna win? That's just a non-factor here. Of course, Hangman Page and Kenny are gonna beat Jurassic Express doesn't beat anybody.
That's not even and my biggest point, and again, the match wasn't bad. But these matches that we know, like these guys can have better matches. That's all. I guess I wish we would get. I wish the match itself was a little bit more exciting in some way. If we already know who's gonna win and it's gonna last 14 minutes, and I don't want to downplay it and make it sound like it was a bad match. I just say like, if for matches like this where we already know who's gonna win, it has to be like a great match for me to really really care too much about it. And I think that's kind of the point. They want to do the old style of booking, and I feel like this kind of fits that, where it's your consistently popular guys going over your non-consistently popular guys and just having long matches and getting them wins and consistent victories. So I get it, but it can become sometimes boring television. It's not always boring television, but when they book in this style, some weeks are kind of boring. And this is that. This could be a fucking great match too. If they had just taken that title match, if they'd taken the title match off of it, it would add a little bit more to it. Because when you hear a title match between these two teams, man, I was questioning how the fuck Jurassic Express even got qualified for that. Like, what qualifies them for this? How are they ranked? If they're ranked, who ranked them?
I don't know. Maybe.
That's a joke if you're ranking them.
Nobody cares about the rankings. You know what the problem with this match was? The most interesting part of this match had nothing to do with the tag team titles. The most interesting part of this match was Kenny Omega consistently beating up Marco Stunt. This isn't the first week that he's targeted Marco Stunt. He randomly beat him up. He really hates him for some reason. It's hinting towards his turn or something. Maybe it's nothing.
That's what I don't like, though, man. Because like the Jurassic Express is they're good guys for the most part. And it's weird because Marco, to an extent, kind of doesn't play a good guy. He's kind of a little cocky douchebag himself. But yeah, I don't know, man. I totally understand and to an extent appreciate the lack of like, this is a bad guy and this is a good guy in AEW, but sometimes I really don't like how much it just kind of flip-flops, because like you said, yeah, Kenny kind of looks like a dickhead for beating the shit out of this small guy Marco, but Marco at the same time was looking like a douchebag the whole match. So it's like, well, who are we really supposed to care about if they both just look like assholes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's a strange way to look at it, but honestly, like, Marco was kind of looking like an asshole in the beginning, but Kenny looks like an asshole for beating him down throughout the match. Like, so I don't know. It's fine though, and it's a solid win for Hangman and Kenny because Jurassic Express are popular. But yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot to this, despite it being a longer match.
Another problem I have with this is kind of something you talked about, Andrew, is they kind of just put title matches on for the sake of having them.
Yep.
It's like they want to get an extra defense in. That's how I've felt about so many of Kenny and Hangman's defenses, and now they must have like fucking 8 or 9, maybe even 10.
There's there's never really any story behind it, and I think that's really what makes their opponents seem like they have an unrealistic chance of winning. There's no story behind it. It just seems kind of like, oh, next week we're going to have a title match between this team on this level and then this team that's kind of on this level, and you kind of already know.
And the rankings don't even have a play in it, because you're right. Who cares about the rankings at this point? Like they've done nothing to emphasize the rankings. There's no specific anything about the rankings. You know what I mean? It's not like there's a hype show or anything. There's just you get a rankings maybe on Mondays if they're still tweeting them out, like, or not Mondays, Wednesday mornings if they're doing it like that still, and that's it. So it is strange, especially when the rankings don't even come to play with these random defenses that they're doing. And it almost butchers the rankings because they've fucking walked through the whole division. Like, that's it. They've beaten the whole division essentially with the exception of 2 teams. And I get that that's the point. That's what we're heading towards. But you've also beaten the whole division to put over 3 teams. So we'll see how it works out and how it plays out. They are kind of building up Santana and Ortiz and the best friends by continuing that storyline. They had those guys take their luggage and ruin it. Didn't really do a whole lot with that, but still a little bit of a continuation there. So,
yeah, it was something. I wish they did more, but it was something, and it was fine.
Yeah,
I guess.
The Butcher and the Blade say that their favorite tag team are the Road Warriors. This kind of makes sense for those guys. So that like, it's still nothing. These segments are just to make sense, but yeah, they don't do a whole lot for me. After this, we get Tully, Arn Anderson, the Rock and Roll Express, the Young Bucks, FTR. They do their whole tag team honoring bullshit. The Young Bucks specifically thank the Rock and Roll Express. FTR says they get to do what they do because of the 4 of them and thank them. Ricky Morton says he watches AEW every week. They praise FTR, but then they say the Young Bucks are the best in their generation. They remind them of themselves, blah, 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 blah. Goes on to say that FTR is the best team in the world. Tully snatches the mic from Ricky Morton. Says that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback because he's got the championship rings, and that's the thing that makes you a great tag team is if you have the belt. Neither of them are the champion. He also has issue with Arn Anderson, his affiliation with Cody. This is just a big, long, drawn-out thing. I don't know. What did you guys think of this?
It was terrible. It was boring.
Meld man and being mad.
We had FTR attack the Rock and Roll Express. Like, I called that, but this was not as nearly as entertaining as I was hoping it would be. I really wanted.
God.
Imagine, and AJ, we just talked about the Santana and Ortiz segment. Like, really imagine if we had gotten what we had wanted from that, and it would probably be way more entertaining. And the best friends making the save for them would make total sense too. Like, I'm bummed that they felt the need to do this. I get why they did it with these guys because it is FTR's little tag team night, so. They're the ones that get to work with the old school tag teams, but yeah, they could have just utilized this better.
Spike Pile Driver, that old school tag team that they invited.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I didn't like
Kenny
this.
seemed to be mad that they did that. Hangman seemed confused. I don't know if he's got a weird feeling about FTR now or what, you know?
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that?
I mean, this is obviously what the segment was building towards. It was a 3-team match. For a long time during this segment, I really didn't care about what was happening. The FTR was throwing around the word marks, which is great if you're watching with people who are familiar with.
What's that supposed to mean?
Exactly. It's great when you're watching with people who've been watching wrestling forever, but when you're watching with somebody who is supposed to be... No, it's not a bad thing.
It's not your fault.
When you're trying to reach a target audience of people who want to start watching wrestling and you throw around words like that, you got people asking, well, what does that mean? And then I have to explain what a mark is.
Sorry.
It's not... No, man. It's not your damn fault.
Yeah,
I'm just saying... I'm just saying that sometimes they use the terms too loosely. Like, not everybody knows what a mark is.
Without any explanation. And obviously Jim Ross isn't going to come on commentary and be like, a mark is a fan who doesn't know anything that's going on. Like,
yeah.
So I do agree with you there. But it adds an element to fans like us but it also adds that bridge for other fans to really get on to what's going on. You know what I mean? Especially if they're not putting a
Yeah.
bridge there to help bridge that gap, it really adds a divide. So I agree.
That's not even my main problem with the segment.
It's just a
That's
problem.
just a throwaway take I got.
Right.
Yeah, it was just boring and
This was
dumb.
just all over the place and dumb. I don't know why Arn Anderson and Tully were there. They were just there to cause some friction. Tully is pissed.
Sean Spears
No
comes out
reason.
Yep.
randomly.
Yo, when Sean Spears comes out
He
and
still
they
doesn't
cut
have a
to
tag
him
team
coming out-
partner.
Of course, stupid me. I'm thinking back to 5 months ago when they were looking for a tag partner.
You
for
thought
him.
this was it? He was finally
Oh
going
my
to get his
God,
partner?
remember that?
Ah, that's great.
That would have been great, but of course, we have short memories in the wrestling business, so that storyline is dead.
And that's fine.
tried.
I'm
Well,
okay
it's all
with
about
that.
the glove now, brother. It's all about the glove.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
wasn't a
that's
whole
fact.
lot to be too excited about. It definitely adds the tension between the Young Bucks and FTR a little bit, but I feel like we could have done that a different way. But it's
could've
personal
shot
now,
that.
brother.
They could have shouted out the women trying to get a tag team division. That would've been cool.
I can't disagree with Kira on this point at all. This is if they're trying to do a women's tag team division and they do this whole fucking stupid segment and they couldn't do one highlight video for the women's thing they have going on YouTube, it really is a shame. Like, it makes no sense.
They don't care about it at
They
all.
don't care.
It seems like
it is so like strange, and it makes me frustrated because I wanted it to be important and wanted to care about it, and I almost want to not care about it at all just to spite it because I don't want to see it be overly successful now because they haven't put the energy into it to be overly successful. So it wouldn't even like I do want to see it be successful for the women that are involved and all of that,
Yeah,
but for the
that's why we-
company's standpoint, they would just gloat about something that they've put no time and energy behind, and what a shame that is, because I agree, for them to have done this segment and there's no tag team women's segments, like what are you guys doing, man? It's just it is silly, it is stupid, and it makes no sense to have not done any. They could have done a tournament match on this show and it would have been great, and instead it's just fucking they didn't. So whatever.
I will say that
Well, that's why
FTR.
we have to watch the show.
I will
Support
say
them.
that FTR beating down the Rock and Roll Express was the best part of the show. That was great. It made me laugh out loud, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know.
After this, we are joined by Mike Chioda. For some reason, we're interviewing him. Chris Jericho interrupts him, says they've been around the world together. He's even saved his job before. That's why he brought in Mike Chioda to do the right thing. Chioda says he's going to call it right down the middle. Jericho says when he sees the signal to call it right down the middle and then do the right thing, and he might save his job again. This is fucking dumb to me. I'm sorry. And I know that we tend to be too negative about stuff, but like, why does he need to pay off a referee to beat Orange Cassidy in a match over $7,000? Like, this is all just so like they're doing too much for this, but it's whatever. I just thought it was weird as hell to see Mike Chioda on TV.
Mike Chioda was a WWE referee who got
You
fired.
can call
That's
him
the
Chioda.
reason.
I'm calling him Chioda.
Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, what were you gonna say, Kira?
I like how the funny part about this segment was that Jericho's jacket is even more orange now. And
I feel like
notice
they're
They're literally-
spray painting it.
They totally are. I mean, obviously, it's not literally just happening.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's happening, dude.
You think it's really just
It's going into
Getting
the
It's just
fire.
orange.
getting
Orange
oranger. Yeah.
somehow.
Have you ever spilled orange juice on a
put
white
some kind of
shirt?
chemical in to slowly
Maybe.
make it
Have
orange?
you ever spilled Orange Cassidy orange juice on a white shirt? That's the game changer right there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I get adding a little element to it. I just don't like Jericho trying to buy off a referee for this. Like, if Jericho is gonna bring in Mike Chioda, why wouldn't he do it for like an important world title match or some shit like that? Like, that would make way more sense to me. I don't feel like this has the importance to do something like that. So that's my biggest issue with that. After that, we follow it up with a Hikaru Shida match. She beats Heather Monroe in 2.5 minutes. So our women's division just literally doesn't matter. We have now probably accumulated 20 minutes to our women's division in the last 2 months. We don't even get Big Swole and Britt Baker hype anymore.
I was gonna talk about that. We've been wondering on each episode of the podcast, how are they gonna make this last until All Out?
Stop talking about it.
Well,
Duh.
Just stop talking about it. Just stop dedicating
Big
segments
Swole
to it. Who cares?
apparently tore it up on the women's show, but now we're just not gonna talk about her at all.
Well, we'll talk about that in a bit, won't we?
Oh, will we?
We will. It's fine. We will. But so this is whatever, a short match. We have longer promos than the women's matches. So.
Well, I will say this, okay? At least okay, they didn't. I don't know if this girl got like a little graphic underneath her.
She did.
Anybody? Oh, okay, she did. I missed
Heather
it.
Monroe.
Heather Monroe.
Oh, right. Okay.
She attacked Sheeta while they were doing the intro. She did her little screaming while choking her out. I thought she did a good job in the 2.5 minutes she got to showcase herself. That's the only real opinion I had on this.
Yeah, I guess.
Kira's opinion on it was different. She talked about her ass.
What? All I said was...
That is fact. That is a fact. She's embarrassed.
Oh my god.
It's okay.
What were you going to say, though?
What did I say?
A solid 2.5 minute match.
I said it was longer than last week's
yes.
women's match that they had.
Yes.
So, I mean...
Well, at least after this match,
whatever.
they plugged the tag tournament for 30 seconds.
They did. They did. But that's because it's going to be on Dynamite.
Yeah, I was happy about that.
Yes.
They actually showed the what is it? The template of the matches.
The bracket.
Bracket. I like that they showed that. They should have. They could have did that last week. I don't think they did.
They did
But I'm
not.
glad they did that, and I'm glad that we were right about them showing the final match on TV. That's gonna be exciting.
If only they had built it up a little bit more over the last few weeks. It's cool to get that match, but for a lot of people, they're not gonna really know a whole lot about it. They'll probably know the two teams involved because I'm sure it will involve the two more popular teams. But outside of that, I don't know. So we'll talk about it, but I don't know. We then we head backstage. Jake Roberts talks about instilling fear in his opponents. Lance Archer beats up people in the background, and then he takes off Jake's shirt, and it says "Everybody dies" on his back. So
is Jake Roberts just supposed to be his bitch? Is that the message?
A bitch.
Yes, AJ.
Why?
Because it makes Archer an even bigger badass, AJ.
Does it?
No, it
For
doesn't.
bitching out
No,
a
it
badass.
For all the things, man.
Bless you, child.
Bless you.
Sorry.
For all the positive things we were saying a few months ago about the Jake Roberts, Lance Archer segments.
Oh, come on. This is one segment, bro. Come on.
Man, has this
We're not
going
to bury Roberts and Archer this early, but I do agree this was bad. But we're not gonna. They had so many good ones, bro, and it would only take another good one. It was just 3 weeks ago he was throwing some dude's head into the ceiling.
It was just 3 weeks ago he showed up on television.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I'm saying.
I thought it was okay. So when this started, I thought it was a curious choice to have him beating up people while Roberts is cutting a promo because I couldn't hear what he was saying, and I was like, "How can I understand what he's saying?"
Yeah, I could barely hear him.
Up. It turns out I didn't really have to pay attention to it at all because it didn't matter. He rips the shirt off this poor old man, and I had to see Jake Roberts' body in 2020. Turn around, Jake. Boom. Everybody dies. Did you tell him, Jake? Everybody dies.
He sounded sad. It sounded like he was like.
And Jake Roberts sounded like he was going to. I don't know.
He just didn't want to be there, man. So, man, this was. I'm not going to put a whole lot of energy into saying this was any good because it definitely wasn't. But I'm not going to act like Jake Roberts and Lance Archer are dead in the water yet. I would like to see anything for them. They need something. They have too many badass characters that aren't doing anything that you can't really maintain it that way. It feels really weird. It feels like they've got like 4 or 5 guys just locked in a cage. Ironically enough, one of them named Brian Cage. Yes. So, yeah. I don't know. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I want, but I just want to see the whole main event picture reshuffled, because it could be just so much more exciting if they had focused on some of these guys a little bit more. But nonetheless, we do at least get to see Archer once in a while, so whatever. From here, we get a rundown of what's coming up next week. AJ, I believe this is Road to All Out Part 1 on Wednesday. Is that what that says?
Okay, that makes sense, because I asked Phil what it was, and he said All Out Part 1, so I put that because I missed it.
Okay, so that would be my guess.
What does that mean, though? They didn't really explain what that meant.
Well, I hope.
All Out Part.
I hope that's what it is. That would be my guess.
I feel like if it was that, wouldn't they have hyped it up, announced some matches for that instead of a Dynamite that's going to happen after the fact?
A Road 2.
I don't know.
They could do Road 2 with just
Maybe.
Mox and MJF for right now, I suppose. Maybe hype up Cody. I don't know. Maybe it's not a Road 2 thing. Maybe it's something else. But I feel like that would make the most sense.
I have no idea.
It
would.
And I would kind of like that, honestly. I would like to get back into the Road 2 situation. So if they can do that with this would be a great time to do it. Especially with them obviously not airing live next week due to the NBA game. And then we got the card for the Saturday, August 22nd show at 6 p.m. We got FTR taking on Private Party. The Elite versus Alex Reynolds, Angel, and Silver. I cannot remember Angel's name. I know John Silver's name, or Angel.
Alex Angel.
No, it's Alex Reynolds. And then Angel. Just Angel. We get the final to the Deadly Draw. Darby Allin will be in action. Wow, so that match is on that show. That's a bummer. The Lucha Bros and the Butcher and the Blade versus Jurassic Express and the Natural Nightmares. So, whatever there. Cody versus Brody. That's an interesting card, man. I don't think there's a whole lot to push people to tune into that card.
Nope. But when we say that and when we don't like the card, usually the show is good.
The show should be good, but I wonder how many people are going to remember to tune into that on a Saturday at 6. That is, there's just Cody versus Brody has no build to it, and in my mind, I would say, well, next Wednesday they have time to build it up. Well, fuck no, they don't, because they're not showing anything next Wednesday. So we're a whole 11 days out or something from this show, and maybe 10. But yeah, we're quite a ways away from this show, and this is how we're doing things. So I don't know. I'm not really excited for that show. I feel like they should have done more to build it up. I don't know if they should have put this Orange Cassidy and Jericho match on that show or what they should have done, but because they have no feud for that show. So at that point, I feel like you need a feud to push people to watch on a different day. Either a feud or a feud mixed with a title match that you feel like there could be a real change. Even if Brody wins this one, what a mistake that would be. I feel like this, I'm cautiously optimistic about these ratings that night, but I don't think they'll be very good.
I don't think they'll be good, but I think TNT knows they're not going to be that good.
But how will they bounce back when they come back?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
What were you saying, Kira?
Aren't they having the women's final on that show?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe people want to see that.
That's fair to an extent. The 250,000 people who tuned in on YouTube, well, 100%. I think I agree that is somewhat of a draw. But in the same token, I feel almost bummed for those girls because they're being pushed to be the draw on this show when they should be helped by this show. I feel like they shouldn't be the focal point. They should, and it's cool that they could be, but because they haven't put enough attention on it, making them the focal point is just setting them up for failure, I feel like. They haven't done enough to make them that point. So I do agree to an extent. If you're someone who's paid attention to that tournament, 100%, that the final will draw you into wanting to see that. But they haven't done enough to push people to watch the tournament itself, and that's where my issue lies with that. Outside of that match and Cody versus Brody, the rest of the matches seem pretty simple. Like, you pretty much know who's going to win them. Very curious how a Saturday night show will work in terms of just a regular Dynamite. But we'll see. It's so close to the pay-per-view, I understand why they didn't want to give away a super stacked, stellar card, but very interesting.
Yeah, it's really nothing to think too much about. It just seems like a regular show. Not even regular show, just a boring show, and I'm not looking forward to it, I'm going to be honest. You okay, Phil?
But now let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Someone on the All Elite podcast say a $7,000 match feels weird, man. I have to agree, and that's the match that we have next to talk about. We got a hype video for Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho, and then transitioned right into the match itself. I don't know. The match was fine. I didn't have a whole lot of complaints with it. I didn't love the finish. What'd you guys think? I don't want to. What'd you think? Phil hated it apparently by the looks of his face.
Oh, it was bad. It was not good, and I was like, okay, it's not the worst for most of it. I was like, there's some like, it's not like they're gelling too well. The chemistry's not really on tonight. It's not the worst thing, and then the finish happened, and I was like, oh god, that's it, man. Like, there's no coming back from that. That was a bad match. Like, you can't pretend. You can put together a cool highlight video and be like, man, Jericho and Orange Cassidy has such great matches, but like everybody who saw that match knows for a fact that's like one of those matches was good. The other one wasn't. This was not good.
What would you say, Kira?
I was bored. I really didn't honestly, I didn't really like pay attention as much. I just I looked up and he was Cassidy was pinning Jericho, and then he rolled out clutching his balls. So I was like, did he win? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I missed if he hit a ball shot. He was clutching his balls.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the finish was so bad. It was
The
not good.
mousetrap.
It was not a mousetrap.
I don't know what that was.
It's supposed to be like a roll up where you get behind the guy and then you bring him back and you hold his like legs back and it looks cool, but
Not
it was
good.
not that.
No, didn't look good.
The first match they had was pretty good. This match, not good.
And I don't know how you apparently they're going to
overbooked it as
follow it
well.
with a rubber match too. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Seems like logically that's where we're gonna go, especially with a roll-up finish here in the second match.
This didn't help. No, this feud is not helping
match
Orange Cassidy.
because overbooked this match was because all week they talked about how neither side will get involved, and then they get involved because of course they do.
And then you had the Mike Chioda thing.
Mike Chioda, also stupid. Turn around, Mike. I'm going to use the bat. And then he dramatically takes the bat away from him. And it was just dumb. I don't know if they I feel like the past few weeks the main events have gotten like 15 minutes. Just like, not just in-ring time, but like 9:45 is when they're starting.
We've had that problem
It
fucking
feels
since the beginning of AEW, man. Like
Yeah,
they've
I feel
never
like they
timed
don't
out
feel-
a show
yeah.
where we feel like the main
Really.
event is gonna get the time it properly deserves. And I don't know if that just
Yeah.
means that they don't really view the main event of TV time as that important or what. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I hear you. It always feels like, and also, I know it's probably a TNT thing, but I hate how every single AEW the opener doesn't have a commercial, but the main event always does.
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Yeah.
So
Well, they do that hashtag thing during it, right?
Hashtag grand prize winner every week. My ass.
I never get it, and I totally tweet it as soon as they.
My ass.
you guys just
Does anybody
aren't
know
grand prize
anybody
winners,
want?
man. I seen one tweet who said they won, so I believe it. I don't think it's that. I don't think they would do something that carny. I think the match itself is the epitome of the carny. But yeah, I don't know. I'm bummed because I thought this Orange Cassidy feud with Jericho would really help elevate Orange, and it's elevated him in a sense where he now officially has a really significant victory, but it came in a fucking terrible match with a terrible victory, like a terrible finish.
Terrible finish.
Yeah. And so just from that, and that's where, I don't know, man, they are running into that problem a lot, where they're running into a lot of really bad finishes because they don't want to have just a regular clean finish where someone loses to a finisher. They want to protect someone. And I get protecting Jericho in this instance, especially because you want to go back and have a rubber match. But yeah, I don't know. I'm now not looking forward to the rematch. This match needed to be entertaining and more entertaining than the last one for me to want to see another one. Now I don't really want to see another one. I don't really know what I want to see from Orange Cassidy at this point because he's just been fighting this old man for a month and a half. So
I'm sure the rubber match will be better. I'm sure
Does this
both
mean that
guys
he
are
gets
aware that this one sucks.
$7,000 or?
I don't know. The only person who cares about it lives in San
Shout out to our
Antonio.
boy Joseph.
Nobody
But yeah, I don't know. The main event was fine. It was whatever,
cares.
but there wasn't a whole lot to it. And it's tough when Dynamite ends like that. You automatically just come out with this feeling that it was a lackluster show. The show itself wasn't horrible,
Poopy.
but it wasn't the best show. And when it finishes like that, I agree with you, Phil. Like it does seem like a shitty show. Yeah, shapoopy, bro. But I think that it was a fine show. But when it ends like that, it's hard to really come out of it saying anything different.
Before we wrap up the Dynamite recap, I'd like to point out one thing that I kind of overlooked. During the tag match, they kept showing Frankie Kazarian.
Yeah.
Can I describe to you how much I don't care about
Who
an
she
SCU
says?
I thought they just showed him one time.
They showed him like 3 times.
Last week they showed him and he had like a shirt that said something.
I don't know
gonna be a thing.
I don't know what the purpose of showing him is. They just lost to the Butcher and the Blade on Dark. So, do I really care about them fighting for the tag titles? No, I don't. Okay,
except I'm a Kowalski guy, by the way.
That made me even more
Wow, you don't want him to be a
Kowalski
Kowalski guy, AJ or Phil? That's
no, I'm just saying.
Killer Kowalski's been dead for like 20 years.
That's his trainer, dude. Chill out. Oh my god.
Is it really his trainer?
Yeah, definitely who trained him. That's why he wore it.
I think I share a birthday with Killer Kowalski.
Well,
so
I'm sure he's gonna haunt you on your birthday now. But nonetheless, Dynamite, it wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't great, and that's where it's a bummer because we've had some really great episodes of Dynamite. This week's episode definitely doesn't fit that category, but hey, maybe they'll bounce back. We do have a while now. It's strange, man, to have a week and a half until the next show. We're gonna have to change up our schedule. I don't think we'll be recording that day. We might record shortly or a couple days after, a day after. We'll figure it out. Between ourselves when we're not on the show, but we definitely the odds of us going live on the 22nd after the show are very slim, just from my own personal scheduling. So we will be back. We are going to talk about the Dynamite or the Deadly Draw before we close everything up, but I did just want to reference that as we close out the Dynamite portion of the show. The Deadly Draw, I honestly did not catch the show. Our resident Deadly Draw viewers, Phil and Kira, did, and they are going to give us a bit of a recap on what we missed. But
that's gonna be the reason that they don't do the women's shit anymore because you're not watching and supporting them.
I appreciate the lecture is good because it's true. We're not the only ones. Like I said, it looks like the viewership dropped by about half, which is really unfortunate. And it's only a couple days, so maybe that'll change over the next couple weeks. It's tough for them to really expect people to want to tune into something that they really haven't put much support behind. But I am interested to see what you guys thought of the 2 matches that happened. The first one. Well, was there anything before the matches happened? I guess that we should talk about.
Okay. So the show was about 36 minutes long. The first segment we've got Dasha interviewing Big Swole. Surprise, surprise! Big Swole is teamed up with a person she has a lot of history with. Somebody named Lil Swole, who they don't actually ever say her name. She just kind of comes out. They have obviously
Nicole Savoy or Savoy. I don't know how to say her name.
I don't know. They just call her Little Swole. They obviously have history because they're very happy to see each other. They team
together in Shimmer and Lil Swole is a former Shimmer champion.
Yes.
Oh, look at that. Kira doing her research. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, she was.
Sorry.
Anyways, they face off against Leva Bates, the librarian, and Rache Chanel. Now, I know you guys may not be familiar with Rache Chanel. She appears on Dark frequently, and she is the worst wrestler in AEW.
Oh, no.
Men, women, midgets, it doesn't matter. She's awful. She is legitimately terrible and insulting to watch.
Oh my god.
The fact that she was in this tournament and people like Hikaru Shida and Abaddon and people like that, disgusting.
What a mistake too to not have them in it.
You have 8 million people on Dark in the similar roles of girls who are enhancement talent, and you picked Rache Chanel. Terrible.
I mean, maybe they're trying to like boost up her character or something, and maybe hopefully she stops with the whole like being obsessed with her hair thing. Like, I don't know, she's weird. Like, she was brushing Nicole's hair at one point when she got.
Oh yeah, that's her gimmick. She brushes people's hair and
like
shows off her Chanel purses, and she's from France.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah,
and this whole situation with Big Swole and Lil Swole, like, I like Lil Swole, but the fact that they're paired together in this whole tournament, and the fact that this tournament felt like it's supposed to be 8 teams, right? But it really feels like they only picked 4 teams and then wanted 4 sets of losers to put over the 4 teams.
Well, what's interesting is
how they're somehow all teamed up with the people that we thought that they'd be teamed up with.
It's so dumb to have a tournament of teams who are teams, and it's supposed to be random. Why give it the random gimmick if it really isn't random?
Yeah, and it didn't even need it. Like, you didn't do anything for it. There was no segment or show for it. So yeah, I 100% agree.
Well, obviously the Swoles won against them, and then the next one is easily...
Wait. Oh, speaking of terrible.
Oh my God.
Lil Swole, who is a Shimmer champion. I don't know if the quality of Shimmer has dropped since 2012 when I last paid attention to them. Man, she was bad.
Really? That's crazy to hear you say that. I saw a lot of people hyping her up and giving her some praise on social media and the internet.
She was a technical wrestler. She was similar in the style of Cody, where she worked very slowly. Everybody else worked a little faster. She was very slow, worked over body parts. She didn't really do anything for me. Her promos were super annoying. Super annoying. This match was not good. I mean, take a look at the people that involved in this match. It wasn't good. You don't have to watch it. Honestly.
I didn't.
You don't.
See, this is the problem. That's why people don't watch the show, Bill. That attitude right there.
Well, it's funny because the next match is actually really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
Elise picked the color pink and found out that Diamante also got that color, which is very shocking.
Surprising.
Wow. And apparently they have never tagged together. They had to bring that up, but they've practiced together or they've trained together. I think, right? They brought up.
Sure.
I don't know, but they get along, so you know that they're probably gonna win. Especially after you see who the team is after that. You guys know Dasha?
Yeah, the interviewer. I watched the video you retweeted.
Yeah.
You loved it.
It was a surprise. It was like something different. And I was like, oh, cool. And she was like really good on camera because she's an announcer. So she was like talking and it wasn't awkward. Had a nice flow, you know.
I will say that I do agree with that. Because maybe it's because she is an interviewer and she's comfortable with speaking. In a division that doesn't really have a lot of fluent talkers, she held up really well. She spoke very well in the interview before the match and afterwards. She spoke very well.
Cool.
Apparently, the girl that she was partnered with, Rachel Ellering, they were buddies in NXT.
Ellerling,
mentioned in the competition.
Ellerling, I have heard of before. She is a second-generation star. Her dad was a wrestler. Or a manager. Something. He did something. They put her over on commentary, too. They said that she main evented in Japan, which is cool. I wouldn't know that, but that's pretty cool. The match itself was good as well. I mean, speaking of the talent of these 4 women as opposed to the other ones, this blew the other match out of the water. They told a good story.
Yeah.
Dasha, I wasn't super excited to see her in a match just because I didn't know if she was a real wrestler. It wasn't just because I was pessimistic. I didn't know if she was a real wrestler. And she...
Of course she was. Why would they put some rando in there?
Dude, I don't know. Because they're crazy. Medusa just came up and said,
It was
wrestle.
very refreshing though to watch it and him not know her. You know, I mean, I'm always being the one that's saying, "Who is this? What? Like, do they wrestle?"
Yeah, it was fun because
so it was nice,
I was
like,
who the fuck is this?
I was very pessimistic about it, and then she was actually good.
Nice.
Yeah, they didn't win, but it was still nice to see. She was very confident about it. She wasn't like sad. She said, "This is the beginning."
It is a bit of a bummer though that I feel like this tournament didn't add a whole lot of depth to the division like we thought it was going to in terms of like even like moderately quality talent. Like it did add a couple of new faces, but there's not a whole lot. There's definitely not really a new face that really stands out as someone who could be a big time player through this at all. Really, that wasn't already established. Maybe Little Swole. But based upon Phil's take, I don't think so. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, like I feel like Diamante and like
that's fair, but I think they were kind of getting established before. But it is fair to say that this is elevating them. So you're right. They're probably the only two. I mean, we'll have to see what happens with Tay Conti and Jay. But
the thing that shocked me the most when I saw the results was Abaddon was nowhere to be found.
Yes. Well,
no idea why.
I think maybe they just. I thought it would be entertaining to have a character like that forcibly team up with somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
But because the Deadly Draw gimmick doesn't matter,
yeah, it's kind of like.
I guess it makes more sense that Abaddon doesn't want to team with anybody because she's like her own entity. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have to team with somebody. Like it doesn't make sense for her character to team up with somebody. I mean, I
wish they would have done something with Sheeta in this too, to have given her a storyline, even if she didn't win the tournament, to have had someone to fight for defend the title. Yeah, anything like so. And
it's not like they didn't have stars in this before, honestly, because they had Penelope and Nyla both in it.
Like, well,
not like either of them won.
Way to devalue the tournament in a sense, because like, okay. In New Japan, and of course we're comparing AEW to New Japan, and that's not fair. But in New Japan, they have Okada or whoever is the world champion at the time compete in G1 all the time, compete in the New Japan Cup all the time. So why wouldn't you have your champion compete in this tournament to make the tournament feel even more important because the champion wants to win it? So it doesn't really devalue it a whole lot, but it does. It could have added value to it. Instead, we have Tay Conti and Anna Jay as one of the final four pairings, which again I should be excited about that because it's new faces, but I'm really not interested in those two women. So
well, I think that's an interesting team because they did well last week. Those are two I mean, Anna Jay has already been on TV, so she's interesting to me, and Tay Conti. Not bad on the microphone, not bad in the ring. I mean,
we'll see. Man. That was off of one match. I do agree with you, but we'll see. And that's where I'm excited to see these semifinal pairings or the semifinal matches. And that's where, honestly, maybe I would have tuned into the show if they had announced what the matchups were beforehand. And they've done a great job of that with Dynamite and Dark. But to have not announced it beforehand for this, and again, I get it, the Deadly Draw gimmick. But to have not announced it beforehand, it kind of left me like, I don't really feel like this is going to be the best show. And it turns out it wasn't. But I am excited to see Swole Family versus the Nightmare Sisters, and then Ivelisse and Diamante against Tay Conti and Anna Jay. Those honestly look like two interesting matches because they've built them up through the tournament. We'll see what happens because I really have a bad feeling the Swole Family is going to lose due to Britt Baker. And
they will.
And that part bums me out. But I honestly think that will come at the finals when it's actually on TV. So we'll see.
Wait, what?
I think
what do you mean that'll come on the finals?
Like I think they might beat the Nightmare Sisters, and then Britt will cost Swole in the finals, not next week. Because it will be kind of weird for her to just randomly cost her against Brandy. For really no reason, because it's like if she wanted to cost her the tournament, she could have done it this week or at the finals. You know what I mean? It makes no sense to do it in the middle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I still think it'll probably go. I
am just scared of the Nightmare Sisters winning this, and then it just doesn't make sense.
I would be way more interested in seeing the Swole Family versus any of the other two teams, but I'm glad that this match, Swole Family versus Nightmare Sisters, is happening now because I really, really thought that was going to be the final. And that's how it was going to end, was with the Britt interference. So if we get Britt interference now, it will be a bummer, but it won't be the match that everyone gets to see. So we'll see. It is an interesting pairing for the semifinal show. the 2 matches they have set up. So
I feel like it would have felt more like a really big tournament if there was maybe one more bracket added to it. Does that make sense? Like another episode.
If it was a little bigger.
Like
I mean, they have. If they're gonna throw in Rache Chanel, they could have done a little bigger thing.
We said it the same
And
with
if
the
it was gonna
TNT
be
tournament. You know what I mean? For some reason, they're afraid to do big ones, and they're afraid to beat quality people. So because they don't want to beat quality people, they only put the 4 semifinalists in,
like,
and then 4 jobbers, basically. So
I feel like that's one of the most frustrating parts of AEW.
We were excited
they don't
for
ever
this.
beat anybody.
We were excited for this tournament, man.
Yeah,
we really were.
I feel like that's one of the biggest things.
They don't.
They
beat
never
anyone.
just want to beat anybody clean.
I agree.
Just have it happen.
Yep. So,
I feel like the last big name that got beat clean was Lance Archer.
Maybe at All Out they'll go all out.
There have definitely been clean finishes alternative to that, but it's not like someone lost. Like it was a clean finish in terms of no one was cheated out of their victory, but it wasn't like no, yeah, and that's what I'm trying to clarify is like the roll ups are technically clean, but they're whack. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this week was fine. It looks like we have something to look forward to next week. The women's show might get more hype based upon it being the only show they really have next week. So that's something to look forward to. They have the Road 2 on Wednesday, I believe, and then we have the show next Saturday.
Well,
so
Dark. They also have Dark.
Oh yeah, how could I forget? Everybody's favorite Dark. They have been doing some interesting stuff on Dark lately, but still not going to catch me watching it just yet. But the fact that Butcher and the Blade did pick up a significant win on that show is not lost on me. I do appreciate that. And it is something that it's one of those ones we talk about significant victories sometimes on this show, and that is one to me. The Butcher and the Blade beating SCU on that show, significant. So cool for them to do that, but you'll have to do a little more than that to get me to watch Dark. Pull back Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela, run that one back, and then I'll be back to Dark. But
I forgot about Joey Janela.
Yeah, exactly. Right, a guy will just disappear for a month.
He's just on Game Changer now, which is, I guess, fine.
Yeah, he's a GCW guy.
But that does pretty much close up everything we need to talk about. AJ, where can they find you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJ
And you can find my other wonderful 2 co-hosts at their names above their heads. If you're not watching us on YouTube, make sure you check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/AllElitePodcast. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/AllElitePod. We're also on Instagram at AllEliteEverything. Phil, you want to plug your social media?
No, I thought you were going to say smash that subscribe button.
Make sure you smash. You were raising your hand, so I wanted to make sure you didn't want to plug your social media this time. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube, brother. And you can find us on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at All Elite Andy. We appreciate you guys for continuing to tune in and support us every week. Until next time, whenever that may be, because of the schedule change, thank you.